What is going on, RiftGuides disciples? It's time for another patch rundown. Patch 3.2 is around the corner and we are here to let you know what's going on. But before we start, we are going to take a look at our question of the day. So, when will we finally nerf Aurelia? Leave your guesses in the comments below. The very big highlight of this patch is the immediate release of Ekko, a crazy champion that can actually break the meta. So stay tuned for what we're going to do with this champion, because don't worry, you'll get a guide on everything soon TM. But to give you a little spoiler, it's very likely that Ekko is going to be played mid lane, in the jungle, and potentially even in the Baron lane. We're also receiving another iteration of the Elemental Rift, which this time sounds like the most promising one. In this one, you get a stacking dragon buff, so there's no more soul in the game. But the more dragons you slay, the more benefits you gain from them. They're like basically stacking each other. If you kill an Infernal Dragon and an Ocean Dragon after, both of the dragon effects you already have will be empowered. Sounds nice and quite helpful compared to the previous dragon effects. So here, from my opinion, it's a really nice idea, just needs a little bit of fine tuning. A certain adjustment everybody was screaming about is finally getting into the game, the Remake System. If a player has been AFK from the start of the game, you'll have the opportunity to remake the match. If their vote is successful, the game will end in neither receiving a victory or a loss. So we'll finally not lose something if somebody's AFK from the get-go. But there's also a case where people just go AFK during any phase of the game, and then you obviously can't remake because it doesn't make sense. It would be way too abusable. But what we're getting is a mitigation for people that go AFK during the game. From 20 to 50% of the points you would lose, you would get refunded. So finally, it doesn't feel too bad when you have an AFK. It still feels awful if we're honest, but it's better than nothing. Another thing that shouldn't be in the game though is ranked Fortitude. There is no way anyone can make an argument that this should be in the game in this form. I've seen people with like 55% win rate and the Fortitude shield of like 30. That is just insanity. How is it even fair? Like, why are they allowed to lose so many games when their win rate is not even high? What's the point? You just inflate people even more with not having promos in the first place. And if you add to that you can't lose more points than you gain during the season, it's just absolutely awful. People are inflated to the maximum, and they're in an elo bracket where they should not belong. And if we're honest, just because you push people towards Grandmaster or Master, they're not Grandmaster or Master players. It doesn't make sense. On paper, the matchmaking works as intended because you're playing against Master, Grandmaster players in name, but they're not Grandmaster or Master players in name, they're rebranded Emerald players. They don't belong there, and this needs to be tackled sooner than later, please. And obviously, with a new patch of this size, we get a new wild pass, and this time we have a beautiful Nasus skin, which is kind of OP because Divine Sunder and Hullbreaker exist, so look out for the Nasus players because they're actually a threat now. The next threat on this list is for your wallet, and it's about skins. First, we'll get Sandstorm Ekko, and nobody really cares about Sandstorm Ekko, let's be honest. It's cool and all, but it's not enough. He releases on the 12th of May. But the next one is the banger. The next three ones are amazing. It's High Noon Ash, High Noon Aurelia, and High Noon Fresh. They're all amazing, so you'll get them, and I know you'll get them, and you'll regret it, but then you won't regret it because they look so goddamn amazing. For Ekko's arrival, we'll get an event from the 12th of May, and with the High Noon skins that will release on the 19th of May, we'll also get an event called High Noon. But now we move over to the heart of the patch, the balance changes. Akali's energy regeneration is nerfed from 75 per 5 seconds to 50. As a compensation buff, her base damage on her first ability goes up by 5 per level, and the energy cost goes down by 10 per level. For her ultimate, they are shifting the power of the ultimate to the first part of the ultimate. They're increasing the initial damage, starting with the second level of the ultimate spell. The first level is still a little bit reduced by 5, but they're significantly nerfing the second activation of the ultimate ability, which is quite the nice thing because everybody hates Akali, let's be honest, nobody likes her. Next champion on this list is Ahri, and she just gets a little base stat nerf. Health per level goes down from 115 to 105. It's not too much of a change, but it's just supposed to make her weaker throughout the game. Nothing too major. The next change comes to a champion that I will never even believe will be viable because of a few things. Like, unless he removes shielding with his ultimate like on PC, he will just never be viable. There's just no point to it. So for base stats, Blitzcrank gets more mana regen, more mana regen per level, more attack speed, and his Power Fist gets cooldown reduction. But this champion will not do anything because it's completely pointless to play. So here we go. The next change on this list comes to Galio. Here we have the idea to push Galio even more into an AP variant of this champion. We have a slight adjustment to the effects range of Shield of Durand and damage changes towards more scaling on this ability. So yet again, they're suggesting to play Galio as an AP character and not just a tank character. The upcoming change is a welcome change because it's to Karma and she's getting nerfed, which she should get. However, it's the wrong approach yet again. They're nerfing her first ability's damage and her ultimate's ability slow, but that's not a problem. Nerf her second ability and potentially a third ability. It's not about the damage, it's about the consistency and the impact this champion has without doing anything for it. There's no risk to it, there's nothing to it, and anybody can do it. So please remove power from that and not just straight up nerfing damage. The change after is about combating Morgana as a laner. First, her first ability's damage goes up, but as a consequence her second ability's damage goes down, at least to laning. In jungle it's actually getting buffed. The idea behind this is to remove Morgana from the dragon lane and the mid lane and put her into the jungle position, but I think it's just not going to be enough. You'll see her viable in a few scenarios, but she's not overbearing enough to actually make the difference. I think with Ekko's appearance she'll just not do anything. The next change is a heartbreaker for the North American WildRift scene. Rengar's base damage goes down from 64 to 58. But here's the real deal. As long as you go Divine Sundra, you'll still be fine because you'll be a drain tank. Just never go Assassin because it's absolutely pointless during this meta. You can have so much more impact if you play around your Bruiser identity and just outstat your enemy. There's no skill involved and you just have a great time. It's amazing. The following change comes to Seraphine's damage numbers. On her first ability, the scaling goes down, but the base damage goes up by 5, and the third ability's base damage isn't changed at all, but the scaling goes down from 50% to 40%. It's not going to change too much why this champion is picked, but it's going to be a hit towards how much she can carry. The next change from my perspective is kinda irrelevant because I've never run into actual energy problems on this champion. Shen's base stats are getting changed, his energy regen goes up from 25 to 50, and as a compensation, his key barrier's energy gain from damaging champion goes down, and his Twilight's Assault dash cost goes up as well. It doesn't really make sense because it doesn't really change anything, but what about changing other things? Because I don't see any sense behind this, but well, who am I to ask? The next change comes to Sona. The idea behind this change is to give her boss skill expression. Here's why. Her base armor goes down from 40 to 35, which makes her more vulnerable, and the healing goes down. To give her more skill expression, her shielding is now increased, which therefore makes it even better if she times her healing, aka the shielding, more precisely. And the other change to her is about her third ability. It just gets a cooldown increasement by 2 seconds. It's not too much and it's not the world, but it gives her more skill expression. The next change is a dangerous one for Soraka. Whenever anti-healing is not really prevalent in a game, this champion is absolutely crazy. For one, her passive gives her movement speed towards lower allies, which in this case gets buffed from 70 to 100%, and her first ability's rejuvenation buff is increased from 2 seconds to 2.5 seconds. At the same time, her cooldown on this ability is also reduced, and the AP scaling of this ability is also increased. Then you have to think about the second ability, Astral Infusion, which gets its cost reduced if you hit the first ability. On max level you get all the HP costs refunded, so you're having a great time permanently healing. If you have now 2 seconds of rejuvenation and Astral Infusion has a 2-second cooldown on the max level, you can easily cast it twice during the duration of your rejuvenation, which means there's no cost and you just have a great time. With the balance changes out of the way, let's move over to the item changes. And finishing the sentiment with Soraka getting a healing buff, we are also seeing that anti-healing is getting a buff. The item's cost goes down from 1000 to 800 on the Executioner's Calling, but the attack damage also goes down from 20 to 15. The same basically happens to the Oblivion Orb. It goes down from 40 AP to 30 AP and the cost goes down from 1000 to 800. We're also seeing a buff to Infinity Oath, which I don't really think is necessary, but the AP goes up from 60 to 65. The reason why they do this is because this item is just not solid enough as a staple in most builds, so yeah, they're just buffing it. However, the next change is something interesting. It's about the Seed Jar. All the resistances are removed, but we have something better now. We have health, ability haste, and we keep the movement speed. Amazing. And on top of the old thing where you can pick up plants, when you pick up plants you get faster now and move faster for 40% for 2.5 seconds. That's an interesting thing which will make the item more viable, but here's the big but. This item will contest the first slot that Admin's played for roaming supports, which will significantly hurt their roaming potential. So it's very questionable if this item sees any light outside of the third or fourth item, depending on what support we are talking about. So yeah, maybe there needs to be some changes again. But the base stats of the item are nutty. Oh, so we're getting Lethal Tempo, And we're getting a buff to Last Whisper in terms of cost. The cost goes down from 1300 to 1100. I wonder what that could mean for AD carries. Also, anything any Aurelion solo Singed main ever asked for was a buff to Riley's Crystal Scepter. Its slow goes up from 20 to 30%. Finally, it will be a good item. The next item is the big loser ever since it was changed. In the past, it gave you 50% crit chance if you use a spell, and now it's just 25. So as a consequence, it needs to be buffed, and Riot is thinking, yeah, we're doing this, so they're buffing the Radiance on its effect from 35 to 75 to 38 to 80. It's not gonna change too much because this item died the moment they changed it. Unlucky. Another change that looks quite scary is a Void Staff buff. The magic penetration goes up from 40 to 45%, but the cost also goes up by 100, which is a fair deal given the fact that you're getting 5% extra pen. Next up come the runes, and here we have big problems. Let's talk about them. First we have Giant Slayer. The more HP a target has, the more damage you'll deal to it, up to 10%. The issue is it's a domination rune, which means it's a direct contestant of Vampirism, which is the most taken rune, so why would you take it? What's the point of this? The next funny idea is a rune that's dedicated to stomping lane when laning phase is barely existent in this game. So every 10 seconds you'll deal 21 to 35 bonus magic damage if you hit the enemy with a spell. So what's the point of this? It's not gonna change too much how the lane plays because what are you supposed to do? Like, you can always reset whenever you want, and if you actually use this rune, what will you gain? Like, I really wonder. The next rune that also comes into the game is an inspiration rune called Demolish. Whenever you get within 550 range of a turret, your next attack over 3 seconds is going to deal bonus damage to the tower. 200 plus 25 of your maximum health as bonus adapted damage with a 30-second cooldown. The issue is turrets are paper in this game anyway, so do you really need this? Or can you just not take something else? That's a big question. However, the more interesting rune we're going to see is Nimbus Cloak. Whenever you use a summoner spell, you gain 5 to 25% movement speed for 2 seconds, based on summoner spell cooldown. This rune can be quite interesting, because it can help you survive and kill alike. So it's very interesting to see how it plays out. But the following rune is the big W of this patch. It's Lethal Tempo, for the probably most broken rune you've ever seen. Melee champions gain 6 to 12% attack speed per level, and ranged champions 3 to 9% attack speed per level, up to 6 stacks, and once they're fully stacked, they get 30% bonus attack speed. Do you realize how much attack speed this is? This is absolutely broken, needs to be nerfed ASAP. Most champions will abuse this, so look out, use this rune and win free games. It's too broken. Compared to the other rune, the Keystone Kraken Slayer is just a joke. Kraken Slayer does 28 to 70 based on level, plus 30 bonus AD and 20 bonus AP, true damage every third hit. Why would you take this rune over the other rune? It just doesn't make sense. Just look at the attack speed. You just need to auto attack once within 3 auto attacks in terms of time, and you already deal way more damage. Just look at the numbers. This rune just doesn't make sense. The rune after also doesn't feel so nice, because if you look at the condition you have to fulfill to get the rune working, it's quite weird to have it. It's 90 to 300 once you cast the ultimate ability. So which champion would actually like to do that? And the fact that it's a direct contestant to Hunter Titan and the other resolve runes makes it really weird to take. Similar to the Nullifying Orb. When you fall below 35% HP, you gain a shield that absorbs 80 plus 50% bonus AD plus 30% AP for 4 seconds, with a 60-second cooldown. So why would you take this rune over other runes? What is the difference here? Is it really a rune that will be taken? I don't really think so. I don't think it's good enough to compare to the other runes. The next change comes to Mastermind. They're going to remove the bonus damage to towers, and it will only apply to epic monsters. However, you'll gain some extra gold now from 40 to 100 gold. We're also finally seeing a change to Fleet Footwork. The minion healing for melees was previously 100% and for ranged 30%. Now it's 60% for melee and 20% per range, and a new effect is added. You will restore 8% of your mana and energy when you trigger it against a champion. Quite a cool thing. To shake up the meta, we are also going to see some jungle changes, so here's the list of everything that's happening, because it's a lot of numbers and I don't want to read all of it to you because it's absolutely boring. But there's a big change when it comes to the big objectives. The first Dragon and Herald spawn is delayed from 4 to 5 minutes, and the local gold for slaying the Herald is getting reduced from 250 to 125. To also compensate for the changes to the monster stats in the jungle, you'll have to deal more damage in the jungle, therefore your smite damage buff is increased from 10% to 15%. And now let's move over to the systematic changes. We'll get changes to the ward system because we are getting control wards. This ward is a visible ward that reveals everything around it. At least if it's stealthed. It has free health, lasts until destroyed or replaced. It is not stealth, don't forget about that one, and you can only have one per player on the map. So for strategic gameplay, this is quite the insane change, because finally vision control will mean a lot more. The last change comes to the tenacity and how it works. Previously, tenacity was additive, now it's multiplicative, but there's a typo in the notes, so I don't know if it's necessarily correct, but if you have two sources of 30%, you would hit 60%, but now it's 49%. But in the notes it says 40%, so I don't know what's correct, so we'll see. And that's it for today's video. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you want more, check out the free champion rotations, and see you for streams, anything. Let's go. Peace.